Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I trust you're well. Can I just get an indication that you can hear me? I'm seeing, okay, some reactions. That's great. That's positive. Okay. All right. Wow. Okay. What do I say? I think the pressure with being further down in the agenda of the program is that when the initial speakers have laid such a great foundation, you're always afraid you don't destroy the work. But I'm trusting the Lord that we will still have an enriching time together. So I'm ready. Okay, then the time is nicely half past. So I don't think I will struggle to do the maths of how we are doing for time. So yeah, I just want to first start by thanking the leadership of women in the scriptures, especially the scriptures in the boardroom committee, for allowing me this time to share and just to um, be in this session. And I've benefited and profited quite substantially myself. And yeah, I think I really will want to keep joining even when I am not speaking. So it was truly great. So just in terms of my talk this afternoon, I'll just be focusing on entrepreneurship, and I'm also going to be touching a little bit on corporate, and understand even from the previous two speakers, they've alluded or touched on some of the important aspects that would speak to also corporate, and we'll just see how we overlap. And I think there's nothing wrong in re-emphasizing certain things. So we'll go on. And I'd just like to title, I actually wanted to put the camera, I just forgot. Okay, so I hope you can see me. So yeah, I just want to title my talk this afternoon, Life's Rich Tapestry, and I'd like for us to glean a few things from um, a lady. So she's a dime, and this is on the British honorary system. So they are dies, they are diamonds, and they are, all these people that they would be honored by the Queen and so forth. So she's one influential person that, as I was thinking and praying and thinking, geez, what do I share with these? With this esteemed audience. And so I was actually led to just to remember and to recall her story, and I think it's quite inspirational, and I believe there'll be something for each and every single of one of us to take home. And before we get into I think the meat of this story, let me just and I was going to re rehash or recap on who I am, and fortunately I don't have a slide because it's just providence that, that there was no opportunity to do an intro for me. So I'm Jacob Rachoene, and I'm working for over 15 years now in the financial services sector. Currently a senior manager in the credit space, and my career has taken a lot of ups and downs, but it's been a very fulfilling one. And I think outside work, I've got other interests. I am running together with my wife, as you can see here on the screen. We're running a few ventures, and I've only sampled two here, which I think I can claim to have had a hand in, but she's running quite, yeah, a few more. So in the education sector, I'll just talk about that a little bit more when we go into the meat of what I'll be sharing with you. And we're also doing something in the agriculture space that I won't touch a lot on. And we also serving the Lord as pastors in Adulam Revival Church. We are based in Centurion. So this is who I am, and I don't think anything that I'm leaving behind, it's probably not as important, but I think you have a picture. But so in terms of where we are going, what we'll cover, as I said, I'll be talking briefly around the life and the experiences and the story of Jane and Gedia. I'll have some more time to talk about her, and I will then talk about just some of the personal applications, just my story, also more our story also. And then lastly, we'll just cover some of the takeaways or what you can take home. And probably maybe before I go in, I actually titled this talk Life's Rich Tapestry. And you probably, if you were observing, I've got finally in the background a few pictures of patterns, and some are a bit complex, some are a bit more visible, and I think one thing that we should understand about life, it's life is made of varied experiences, different people that we meet, and different failures and successes that all contribute to shaping up who we are. And if you look at yourself today, the age that you are, you've been shaped by your upbringing, you've been shaped by the people, the friends, the experiences, the institutions you've attended, and so forth. And I think all of that makes up for who we are. And I believe greatly in the fact that whatever crisis that you've had to deal with, they can still be used for the good in terms of you being able to poke and to impact life in a positive way, despite whatever you've been through. And this is what we see even in the character that that we've chosen will be going through. And I think, for some, and this is something I was battling a little bit with, in terms of, okay, so which character am I profiling? And obviously, in most of my preaching, I do love character studies, and I just didn't want to come and peddle more scriptures and people from the Bible. I believe this community is rich with such examples, and I think for today, I just wanted to take a different route. And number one, the reason why I'm actually talking about this character is I've got this book. I don't know if you can see it. So this is a book about this lady, and for some reason I didn't even know about her. I just saw the Virgin Banker, and I thought it was actually a book by Sir Richard Branson. And I think by the time I discovered it wasn't about him, I think I was way too committed. I already spent the money in buying it, and I thought, okay, let me read through it. And I think as I read through the intro, the author's reviews, and so forth, I was already just in love with it. And it was just one of those moments of just by chance stumbling onto a gem. And I believe if you haven't compiled your reading list for 2026, you should definitely add this to your list. And I think that there's probably two things that I maybe struggled with a bit. Number one was, okay, I'm profiling a secular character. And then number two, for this forum especially, don't we have enough South African Black heroes and female heroes that we could probably be looking into? But I think you'll obviously see even from just history that there are many ways and parallels that we can draw, and make a story relatable to our situations. And I think one of the scriptures which I love and I've been loving for quite a while, and it's helped me a lot in terms of even not feeling guilty when I have to read secular and learn from some secular people. It's in Luke 16, verse 8, where the whole, I think from the top of the chapter, we're reading about a certain servant who was shrewd in him dealing with his master, that he was found to be unfaithful and he knew he was going to be fired. He started reducing the debt on all his master's debtors. And here we read about in verse 8 where the master is commending him. And there's a certain line which is quite important, and I want us to probably, even if it's the only takeaway, it's where Christ is even saying the people of this world look of this world look out for themselves better than the people who belong to the light. And this is actually an indictment on us believers, that sometimes we get to be, if I can just paraphrase it and take the liberty, apostolic liberty, maybe, to say we get to want to be so spiritual that we don't even want to observe some of the lessons that we can learn from secular people. And I believe in business, in corporate, in even in our workplaces, there are always lessons and things that we can always glean from others, and we need to have that attitude of always wanting to learn and always wanting to even connect and to build solid and strong relationships, of course, within the bounds of what is acceptable to even the faith that we are part of. I hope that is defense enough for us looking at a secular character. And I think that then the second part was okay, don't we have enough African trailblazers? And I think when you read her story, and it was even a shock for me as I paged through the book and I was reading it, is that she actually got married to an Indian. You'd see even her surname. It's Jane and Gadia. She got married to an Indian man who came from a very strong Muslim family, and Hindu family rather. And obviously, she had to navigate through some of the challenges, and this was in the 80s, and this wasn't quite socially acceptable. And I think some of those struggles helped shape who she was, and we'll obviously talk about that when we talk about her marriage life. And I think we also have a few things that we can learn from there. So I think with all of that said, let me go on. I'm already waist deep in with regards to the life of Jane and Gadia and the story. She's still alive, and I think there's still a lot more that we can discover if you do try to Google or check some of the talks and engagements. And I think there is always a lot of nuggets and great things that you can glean from just her as a person. So her early years, and when she tells her story, and she's been, I think, now in this podcast era, she's gotten a lot of opportunities to retell and to talk about her story and her experiences, because she's really someone who has been a pioneer in the financial services as a woman. And so she speaks about how she early on in life faced a lot of challenges, and then these came from her background. So she came from not a necessarily poor family, but a working class family, where I think her dad lost his job rather, when I think she was still in her early teens, and she even had to change schools, go to a certain school where it was previously a boys only school, and they one of the best the group of girls who were in that school. And if you can see from a picture, she's quite an imposing figure. She's about 1.9 meters tall. I think on average, most women are around 1.6, 1.7. And she was bullied a lot. And I think, in an all-boys school, she'd stand head and shoulders above, even all the girls. They were no match, and even above some of the boys, and they would even scream, at her, and she was a giant from a very young age, and she was bullied a lot, and I think with that bullying, and that really shaped her into um, someone with resolve, someone with determination, someone with grit, and she could stand against all of that and still manage to maintain a balanced life, and still manage to thrive, to thrive through all the bullying that she had to endure. And she speaks a lot about it, even in some of her talks, and she, as she talks to learners and uh to to young people, and she's really honest, and I think even in a book, she paints a really great picture of the challenges and the difficulties that she's endured. And I think one thing that she even mentions is that, this very stature that was a bit odd for a lady to have. Even when she would step in boardrooms, she would even deliberately use her physical stature, which she was mostly for most of her life embarrassed of, and insecure about. She would use and stand shoulders up to show that she is in command. And then she in essence used it as a way of saying, I'm also present, I am here. I'm here not merely to mark the register, but to communicate her presence. And I think that's really quite important sometimes, to look at our what we can perceive areas of weaknesses, and see, and then try to see how we can transform those into areas of strength, and areas whereby we can turn them around, and not keep ourselves always or perpetually bound by even those areas. And one of the things then that she moves on to after, her early life. So she went to university. She initially studied history, and later on, and we will also talk about her academic background, but she then went on to becoming a chartered accountant. And she met her husband, Ash, in university. I think they met the first week that she was in university, and they obviously pursued the relationship up until marriage. And she often talks about how, at some points, due to how conservative both cultures were, it was not merely the strictness of his husband's side, and obviously they still believed mostly in arranged marriages, and that was expected of him also. But I think also from her family, it came a bit oddish for her to be introducing someone that it was even beyond their wildest expectation. And she talks about how at some point she was chased with someone wanting to kill her for relating or for marrying an Indian man. And this also caused a bit of tension even in her workplace, in her career. But I think we even with that challenge, she recalls and recounts that later on, as she would, because she's actually a prominent figure in the world of banking for women in the UK and worldwide, especially because the Virgin brand, Richard Branson's brand, it's quite huge even in the US. she talks about how one day she had to go do some talks and mentoring with some underprivileged kids, and one of the girls, I think the girl was, I forgot what color or what nationality or what what race she was, and she said, but I can't, you can't relate to who I am, and she said, no, one thing you don't know about me is also in Britain, in the UK, if you're not white, you're black. So she said, no, one thing about me is that my husband is black, he's Indian. And then from then onwards, immediately the young girl opened up, and she felt she was speaking to someone that could relate to some extent to where she was and to who she was. And I think even with that experience of being in a miscellaneous or rather, in a cross-cultural marriage or relationship, that also help her in identifying with some of the marginalized, and I think beyond just women being marginalized, especially in the financial services sector, but also marginalization around the lines of color and race, and she really stood out as an epitome, or rather even an example of standing for justice for those who were uh, being left behind, and she fought for equality in many respects. But one of the things that I really loved as I was reading her story. So I read this book about 2 years ago, and obviously, but I've been following her ever since. I've been a fan, and one of the things that she talks about is even in her marriage, and it is something that has helped me even in some of the enterprising that I'm doing with my wife. It's she talks about how when they had their first child, or rather their only child, actually, they only have one child, that because she had advanced so much in her career, she had to return to work, and the husband had to be home and look after the child, and I think that was quite touching and I think, given even the audience, which is probably mostly female, and some of you, I believe you still in the phase of looking for partners and praying about partners, is having partners that are enablers. And I think, the husband was also a chartered accountant, by the way, but he actually agreed to say that I can see you've progressed well, and I can actually, take the other side, and I think it's something we should. I aspire and I desire for all the sisters here that you may find yourselves in relationships whereby your partners are enablers when it comes to your vision, when it comes to your career, when it comes to your goals and your dreams, where they are willing to forfeit and let go, and not be stuck on the what we can call some of the cultural norms, which men and partners are seen as people that should have priority, and women should be left behind, and I think we are living in a generation where women have equal, if not better, opportunities, and whereby they need to be allowed to exercise and to really manifest even in those spaces. So that's the things that I just wanted to lean on a bit on her marriage life and married life. And now, talking about business, she's achieved a lot on business. If I was to probably open up a CV and read and go through it and recount and I think, speak about all her achievements. It would take more than you would desire, but I think it's obviously an appetizer for you guys to go read, research, and just glean from her life and her journey. But one of the things that we read and we know and we get to understand about her is that so she studied history. She studied history rather, and one thing that's important, and I believe even in our setting, is that already in the 70s, 80s, she recognized that there weren't a lot of jobs, and that being a chartered accountant made one stand a better chance. She often claims she didn't quite feel she has a mathematical mind and or rather a numbers mind. And she actually determined that she was going to, after doing history, going to pursue chartered accountancy because that was the field that was growing and that held a lot of promise for a better career. And I think just the story of pivoting, it's quite important for us wherever we are, wherever we find ourselves today. Even at the beginning of 2026, you may be in a certain field where when you're looking at the trends, when you're looking at where the world is going, you feel like, your industry and your field, you are not well cushioned for the future that where we're going, and even if it's not a roundabout or rather a total 180 degrees turn, but how to even incorporate some aspects in your learning, in your career, in your skill set, which will make you better suited for the kind of future that will be fulfilling and that will be relevant. And I think her story of pivoting and starting from scratch and then training with Ernst and Young to becoming a chartered accountant, and she does recount some of the challenges with that, the rigor that it required, and the self-sacrificing commitment that it took out of her, and even out of her marriage and her marriage life. And I think that's truly one of the things that we shouldn't ignore. We should always be looking at the patterns, be looking at where things are going. And I think right now there's a lot of issues and a lot of talks on AI, and even the first speaker did touch a lot on the importance of making sure that one is engaged with the current trends. And I think her life in business started with even that. And I think that malleability and that flexibility was a great foundation for her in growing, in pushing through some of the challenges that she'd faced, that she'd later face in business. And well, one of the things, and I think one thing that she also opens up about, it's the challenges that women faced in particular in corporate, because she was like a lone figure, a lone female figure at the top. And I think obviously she wanted to break the mold. She wanted to go as far as possible, push beyond what most of her peers could. And I think she embraced all the opportunities as they came, and she obviously had surrounded herself with the right people. And we see her also talking about some of the pressures and the stresses. And one of the things is obviously in growing and in developing and going further in business, there's obviously challenges as a woman, where she'd struggle to find acceptance, where I mean she talks about dealing with dinosaurs, and I think she speaks about a literal dinosaur at a park, but also even in business, people that were stuck on certain things, and where she had to come with her own philosophy and her own views and had to stick by them and had to challenge certain stigma in corporate banking and the UK. And I think her story is that of being, or rather not being uncompromising in terms of one's values, one's convictions, and what she strongly believed in. And I think one of the things that I believe stood out for me, and I think for all of us, is that she added her own voice to whatever that was happening. And obviously she had mentors and people that could protect her, influential people that could back her up. She nurtured some of those relationships, but at the end of the day, she still made sure that she added her own voice, she added her own flavor. It wasn't just a replica of what had always been done in the past, but she really did her best to bring her own influence. So she was actually the CEO of Virgin Money from I think the year 2007 to around 2018 when she ultimately quit, and I think there was an acquisition also of the company. And she recalls and then she recounts how she also got to get closer to Richard Branson. It was through connections, it was through people that she knew who actually made the bridge for her to reach into the very top. And I believe even in ourselves, we need to look out for such people and desire to have such in our corner, whereby we can feel that we looked at. And I think if I can just quickly move on, and I'll try not to take a lot of time here because I really want to leave a bit more time on the application to ourselves and where we are. And what I wanted to cover to a brief degree, it's just the story and how her story also continue to form part of an inspiration to how I do what I do. And I think obviously I said I'm uh, currently still employed, but we are running a school. It's a Seca Montessori. It's a crash, but with great and big ambitions of growth and of impact and lasting impact on the children that the Lord has allowed us to have even in our space. And I think the one thing so that I can talk about it's even before we started this business. We always had a desire and a passion, but we had the privilege of meeting some people who were big dreamers, who were somewhere in this space, and some were just, generally people whose inspiration was just unavoidable for us to plug in, and their energy and their enthusiasm was just so influential and just overflowed even to us. And that was a great seed. And we actually have friends who had been running a school, I think already then it was 3, 4 years somewhere. And I think, in seeing their story and their inspiration, we were thus inspired to also want to let our goal be manifest. And I think that obviously took some preparations, because we knew where we were going. I remember we even invested money into Mbaki whilst living in a complex, and I think a lot of people were wondering, but this Mbaki is not in line or congruent to the kind of estate lifestyle that a lot of people are living. And then I think the question was, oh, what do you use the Baki for? The Baki is parked 24/7, but already we knew where we were going. And I think sometimes it's if you know where you were going, I think start planting the seeds today. Start planting the seeds and preparing before there is pressing need, and you find that even the resources that you've had to plant the seed with, you've probably diverted them onto other things. And I think that's probably the first lesson. And I think then the biggest thing was finding the space and the area. And for us, it was a very brave step where we acquired some land, and we said we are going to build and start a school from this area and this place. It was literal land. Obviously, we do have interests in agriculture, so we wanted that, and that land and that space lended itself already for the plans and the goals that we've had. And I think we obviously don't have a lot of time, but if I were to go into the ins and outs of finally getting that land, it was also just seeing yeah, God's hand. I think one thing I don't want to minimize is that there was providence behind even all the actions and the steps that we've taken. And it was a daring and audacious move. And I think, when we then started finally, it was a journey of patience from 2022 to even now. We are starting to see the fruit. And but I think we've had moments of feeling like we've been sold a lie, when people say, yeah, just be patient. And indeed, I think patience does reward and does bear fruit. And I think our story, and I think I probably said in the first slide when I was introducing the agenda that one of the motto that we went with was jump and the net will appear. And I think it's really taking a step of faith. It's really stepping out and trusting that, of course, calculated jumps, right? So not testing God, kind of jumping and risking, it all even unreasonably. But I think it's just been a journey of patiently sowing and waiting and nurturing the ground. And I think maybe just in the form of conclusion and just pressing on towards the end of what I wanted us to talk about. It's uh there is a project that we are all undertaking this year in 2026, and that project is your goals, your ambitions, your dreams. Some of it, yes, it's in business. Some of it, it's in our careers, in our workspaces, in our industries where we have aspirations to grow, to make impact, and to really poke holes and to dent how things are done, to raise our voice and to make even our presence felt. And one of the things that I want us to acknowledge is that I won't read verbatim, but when we speak about the tapestry of life, we're speaking about taking all your experiences, everything that makes who you are today, making the diversity of all of that work for your benefit or work for your profit, and how even some of the crisis moments you can use them to drive you forward. I mean, we spoke about Jane and where she was bullied, and then I think that crisis gave her the resolve to stand up. And I think when you read about Richard Branson, when you hear about the story of how he started his flight Virgin Atlantic, it's a bit dramatized when it speaks about he bought an island, Necker Islands, and one day he was stuck with the flights to cross the Atlantic Ocean. And there were a lot of disgruntled people at the airport. And he just raised his hand. He said, okay, guys, who wants to charter a flight with me? And, a group came together and they chartered a flight. And that's how that crisis ended up becoming, Virgin Atlantic, you know, the the air company that he then started. And I think it's using all those crises instead of drawing back and resigning with a victim mentality. It's really standing up and saying that I want to be the better for what I've been through. I want to be the better for the setbacks. I want to be the better for even better for the opportunities that I've had. I want to be the better for the friends that I have. I want to make the most out of the people that I've met and that I have added to my journey. And that's really the first part or the first aspect. And I think the second thing is you see her story. It's a story of having supporters on her side, from even in her marriage. Her husband was a huge cheerleader and a huge supporter. And then I even see it even with our model in Seka Montessori, where we are running something as a couple, a business. We do support each other. We don't always agree on even on some of the fundamental issues, but at the end of the day, we know we are seeking the good, of the business and seeking the good of what we are venturing on. And I think getting supporters, finding mentors, and learning from others. And I think learning from others nowadays, it's become so much simpler because you can even just find someone on TikTok or wherever that you follow and you really fall in love with how they do things. Find someone on LinkedIn and you that you really want to map your life and your journey after. And I think nowadays we have access to even a lot of the success stories that inspire us. And I think using and using some of those as an inspiration, I think it's quite important and critical for us, even in this day and age, in this generation. And I think the most important thing is being yourself and understanding and appreciating who you are, the patterns that make you, and that there is a flavor that you can add to life in that. And I loved how Slihle completed even her talk around, and if I can paraphrase it, she was saying in essence that there are some people who are waiting to experience your flavor, to experience your presence. And I believe that as we have been flavored by others, we also can flavor others' lives. And I think, I spoke about adding our voice and also I think it's a story of passion. I think knowing what you're passionate about, and obviously what you're passionate about today has been informed by many years of trying things and finding what you are passionate about. And I think in the bio that I previously shared, I had mentioned that I am a runner, and one of the things that I loved about Jane Ann is that she's also a runner. And when asked what she would have done differently or what advice she would have given her 20-year-old self, is that she would have taken her physical health much more seriously and ran a lot more. So, and I think finding your passion and living out your passion and not being so completely absorbed in your pursuits that the rest of life loses its meaning, and then the rest of life loses joy, where you are preoccupied with chasing your dream. And I think just to end, and to learn these, there is a verse, and I've loved the scripture. I think my eyes were open to it a few years back, and it speaks about when Jacob had been deceived by his uncle Laban in working for 7 years for Rachel, and only to find Leah, and then only to find Leah, and when he was told he needs to labor another 7 years. The Bible says that so Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, another 7 years. And those 7 years, they seemed to him but a few days because of the love that he had for her. And I think sometimes when you find what you're really passionate about, allow yourself to get into the flow, and it won't be dutiful. It will just be so fulfilling that, when people are amazed that, oh, geez, you cross-nighted on this thing, you wake up at 3:40 for this thing. And I see it with my running, that sometimes, yeah, it shocks some people. Yeah, so that, especially my wife. So to say, geez, you're so passionate about this. But I think when you find something you love, give yourself to it, and chase your dreams, chase your goal, chase those great experiences which make who you are, and grow even in the middle of that. And I believe that as you do that, you will get to experience and get to thrive in all that you do as it relates to your pursuits and your passion and your business goals and ambitions, even in 2026. Thank you so much. And I think I will bring it to a close here. We obviously will have a time of question and answer, so we should interact further. Thank you so much. I think the MC can take over.